How do you do? Storyteller here, back with another episode of Sherlock Holmes Crime and Punishment. Or Crimes and Punishments.
The whole train just disappeared. It's unbelievable.
According to this document, you have insurance for your prototype.
Oh, thank God. Where did you find it?
Near the telegraph station.
I must have lost it when I tried to send a message, which I was prevented from doing.
I apologise for that, but regulations state that public access to the telegraph is strictly prohibited.
Upon my word, you keep on digging that hole of yours. You have no idea who I am.
I see that you kept your gripsack with you. Why don't you leave it in the luggage room?
I've had other things to think about. I lost my prototype. And this idiot station master just stands here doing nothing to help.
Oh, but...
Well, that won't do at all. Station master, I believe that the regulations state that any passenger luggage should be taken to the luggage room.
I'll do it right away, sir. Sorry, sir.
Oh,
This Robinson is quite a character. We should learn more about him.
I say directly in front of him. Oh, so I should go to the luggage room and investigate. Was that house... Is that house investigatable? Nope. Never mind. But I never noticed it before. Hello? Can we chat? Nope. Well, I tried. Back to the luggage room. Left luggage. Haha.
This gripsack belongs to Mr. Robinson.
I think we should open it, Holmes. This is what they call force majeure. I'll keep watch.
Of course.
Okay. Ah, another one of these. Okay. I was gonna say... Let's do... That. Forget how to... there we go. I wasn't paying attention to the instructions. Let's line it up this way, I guess. There we go. Not too difficult. Ooh.
Look, Watson. A bundle of contracts. Very suspicious. We should study them carefully.
This is an exclusive sales contract. Regarding the... Well,
And
let's, I guess, underline that. Regarding the prototype invention dedicated to appliance supplying energy to in an autonomous way. The electric company, the buyer, understand that they are purchasing this device as is and they are in agreement.
Mr. Robinson is the seller.
The seller is not responsible for any problems that may arise with the prototype after purchase, whether or not those issues were made known by either party at the time of the purchase. The buyer is obligated to make payment of 10% of the prototype in advance of signing the contract. So he already got 10%. The remainder should be transferred within 1 month term. Alright. An exclusive sales contract.
Yet another exclusive sales contract.
Oh, so he sold to multiple people.
Mr. Robinson is the seller. Yet another exclusive sales contract. Mr. Robinson is the seller.
So he's made contracts with all the different buyers. He's collected 10% from each of them in their exclusive sales contract. 10% ahead of time for the rest after, but With the machine gone, no one else can get the product, and he's still got the 10% regardless of any problems that may arise with the prototype after purchase.
Yet another. Mr. Robinson is the seller. Well, it is very clear that this Mr. Robinson received prepayments from various people for his machine.
B. Prototype had many customers. Prototype has insurance. Special. Ooh, the special wagon. Robinson is a victim. The loss of his machine is a disaster for Mr. Robinson. Even though he planned for this fraud, he has lost far more than he could gain. The insurance will not cover the total cost of the prototype. But is he a victim? Prototype has insurance. Robinson's motive. The loss of the prototype will bring a lot of easy money to Mr. Robinson, thanks to the insurance and the multiple fraudulent exclusive contracts. Or, Robinson is a victim. The loss of the machine is a disaster. Even though he planned his fraud, he has lost far more than he could gain. The insurance will not cover the total cost of the prototype. That's assuming this prototype is worth something. So I'm at Evesham, and right across the way, I apparently didn't realize there was a gate here, and I just got it open. I had no idea this was here, and this is probably what I'm missing.
There was a building here not so long ago.
But I don't understand, Holmes. Why would anyone destroy the shed in such a manner?
It was disassembled in great haste. It is most odd.
But I don't understand, Holmes. Why would anyone destroy the shed in such a manner?
What does it want me to see? It wanted me to click on that. Multiple traces, wheel traces, heavy vehicle traces.
Traces. Let's take a closer look. The distance between the tracks is about 6 feet 7 inches. The vehicle would have been heavy, as these tracks are quite deep. These traces are relatively fresh and were made by a large truck loaded with materials. The traces found at the disassembled shed near Evesham and at the lake were from the same vehicle.
Interesting. But that means... do we have a new clue? Here's that large truck transporting materials.
This road should lead to the town of Evesham. This road... It appears that there was a small warehouse near your station and that it was disassembled. Why is that?
It was burgled overnight about 2 weeks ago. The police have already started their investigation, but I doubt that they'll find anything.
What was inside the warehouse?
Nothing of value. A few 100 feet of standby rails and some spare railway parts. But it wouldn't be easy to steal all of that. Why would anyone want to?
See you later, my good man.
Okay, so we have everything we need. I just wasn't selecting the right answers to form conclusions. So there are 4 different conclusions. I'm going to read all of them before I decide which one I believe, because apparently I have all the information I need. So I just need to form my conclusion based on one of these 4 deductions. So I'm going to read all of them before I decide. Mexicans sealed in Chileans. It was carefully planned murder. The Mexicans killed the Chileans and sealed the train underneath the collapsed mines to hide their crime. Blind justice. The Mexican inhumanity toward the Chileans cost many lives. We must act quickly. Or political gain. Criminal organizations such as this cannot be confronted directly. It requires a delicate approach. Give Mycroft a chance to resolve the conflict, even though it might be trying to turn his own advantage. I don't know if I necessarily believe that, so let's explore all the options. So the first option is that the Mexicans killed the Chileans. Maybe they wanted the invention to themselves, or the deal. They were mad that they didn't get the coal mines, so the Mexicans killed the Chileans. That's the first one. So for the next outcome, we need Mr. Chesterfield, road into mines, concealment, inside mines. We need accident. Which one is Chilean to the left? This changes it to accident. Then Robinson's motive, saying it was intentional. We need, okay, that was it. Robinson is a swindler. It was all about money. Mr. Robinson is a financial swindler. Well, that is true. With the aid of his minions, he sealed the train and fake machine underneath the collapsed mines to make a fortune from multiple contracts and insurance claims. Well, the papers indicate that he wouldn't make enough on the insurance claim to justify repaying his machine unless the machine was fake. Blind justice. Thomas Robinson is a guileful man who will not hesitate to sacrifice lives for his own personal gain. Or, he's a swindler, famous man of influence. Direct confrontation is inadvisable. It would prefer to accept Mycroft's political means of resolving the situation. Again, I don't know if I believe this one either, because it said that the insurance wouldn't cover the amount in the machine unless the machine was, of course, fake, if I'm believing that it's fake, which it could be. But I'm going to explore all options. The next option, Miss Chesterfield, rode into mines, concealment, inside mines, Chileans were left, but... yeah, okay, that's the right outcome. Mexicans sealed in the Chileans. It was carefully planned murder. The Mexicans killed the Chileans and sealed the train underneath the collapsed mines to hide their crime. Didn't we already see this one? Hold on. We saw this one. So... hold on, I think I did the first one wrong. We had concealment, barges, cannot be sunk, Miss Doncaster, vanished earlier, Mexican trap, no grudge, Robinson's a victim, theft, Chileans, this is a different one. Chileans stole the prototype. The Chileans stole the prototype and sealed the train underneath the collapsed mines to hide their crime. Blind justice. The Chileans stole Robinson's prototype for financial gain. Who knows where they might do next? Contact Lestrade or political game. Cannot be confronted directly. So we have 1. The Mexicans killed the Chileans, sealed them inside the mines, and stole the machine. 2, the Chileans stole the prototype and collapsed the mine on themselves, on the train to hide the crime. 3, that the dude Robinson sabotaged the train and the machine to hide the fact that it was worthless so that he could keep the insurance money and the 10% that he collected from them, which is possible. Or the last one, which is railway to quarry. Load into mines, inside mines, missed. Let's say it past Chesterfield. Then we have Chileans were left. We're gonna say that it could be sunk. Robinson is a victim. The Mexicans are angry. Mexican trap. We're gonna say it was not concealment, but sabotage. Good. And it missed Doncaster and vanished earlier. What am I missing? Oh, I completely missed one. What is this? Railway to quarry. Or road into mines. Oh, so this is whether it went to the quarry or to the mines. If I say it to the quarry, we get a different outcome that says that it has been sunk, leading to the conclusions that the Mexicans drowned the Chileans. It was carefully planned murder. The Mexicans killed the Chileans and sank the train in a flooded quarry to hide their crime. So I have a railway that goes directly into water that was dismantled, but it was clearly there. Or I have a railway that was directed into the mines and then collapsed with dynamite. I have a guy who took out insurance on his machine and collected 10% from multiple investors, even though he claimed each one of them was exclusive and no other contracts existed. So he's clearly a swindler no matter what. But do I think he sabotaged his machine and the train with the Chileans on board intentionally? Or do I believe that the Chileans got away with the machine, or that the Mexicans sabotaged the Chileans? Clearly there was tension between the Chileans and the Mexicans. So I don't think there was the no grudge option. I believe either it was Mr. Robinson, or how do you say his name, Robertson, or that the Mexicans sabotaged the Chileans. Whether they sealed them inside the mines or drowned them, I don't know. I don't think they would have sank the train. It makes more sense to me that they would seal it in the mine because they used dynamite. Just because there were tracks leading up to the water, but there's nothing to indicate the train was ever there. But the mine itself was collapsed with dynamite intentionally. This is really difficult. I don't have anything that tells me one way or another. I have all the information I can get. I don't have any other information. I can't get any other information. This is all I have to work with. Yes, there was clearly tension between the Mexicans and the Chileans, but that doesn't mean Mr. Robertson wasn't involved and sabotaged the train so that... But everyone was asked to step off except the Chileans, which makes me believe it was the Mexicans trying to get rid of the Chileans. whether for the machine or for revenge for the mines, because the Chileans won for the mines over the Mexicans. So there was tension. I'm more inclined to believe, because the Chileans were left on the train, that it was the Mexicans and not Mr. Robertson. He had no reason to kill the Chileans. If he had done that, he would have killed the Mexicans too, because he wanted to protect himself against their investment being taken back, which they can't do. It's in the contract regardless of what happens to the machine. So I don't think, if he was going to kill the Chileans, he would have killed the Mexicans too. That's why I think the Mexicans killed the Chileans. But did they sink them, or did they bury them in the mines? To me, there is more evidence supporting them being buried in the mines. Because there was dynamite, there was intentional use, they dismantled the tracks in a hurry, the screws were left, and there was dynamite still in the scene. That's when we shot it and exploded, it was still there. Versus tracks that went down into water, but there was no sign that the train was ever there. So, knowing that I cannot gather any more information, knowing there's nothing more I can do or say to anyone, because I checked, the only option I have is to make a deduction now. I don't believe Mr. Robertson would have killed the Chileans and not the Mexicans if he had done it. If that had been his plan, I know he was committing fraud. He was going to collect the insurance and the 10% and then say, hey, you signed the contract that said no matter what happens to the machine, you agree to this. So I think that was his plan. I don't think it was his plan for the Chileans to get killed. I think the Mexicans did it. I don't believe they were drowned. Because one, drowning, the bodies can always float up to the top and now you know where the train is. Versus sealing them in the mine. There's no evidence to support the train was ever at the water. But the tracks at the mines were dismantled and the screws were left. The dynamite was still there, so I personally think the Mexicans killed the Chileans by sealing them in the mine. Now let me review which deduction that was. So let's go back. There's also the option that the Chileans stole the prototype and escaped with it, which I forgot to include. Let's look at that again. I want to read that one again. So we're gonna say rode into the mines, that it missed Chesterfield, that it was concealment, that he's a victim, that there was no grudge, that it was theft, yes, the barges, it could not be sunk, missed Doncaster and vanished earlier. To that we get the Chileans stole the prototype. They sealed the train underneath the collapsed mines to hide their crimes. So it's... that's hard because it's either this one or the Mexicans killed the Chileans and put them in there. So either the Chileans got away with the prototype after they stole it, or the Mexicans got it and killed the Chileans. There was tension. Does that mean that the Chileans stole the prototype to get it away from the Mexicans? Or that the Mexicans killed the Chileans and hid them? I still say it's possible that they could have sank the train. I just find it less likely. It is less likely. But I haven't eliminated the possibility. You see, this goes against everything Sherlock. Until I have eliminated the possibility, I can't form a conclusion. A conclusion is only the exclusion of all other possibilities, and I haven't excluded those. But it said there's nothing else I can do. There's no one else I can talk to. I don't personally believe that the Chileans stole the prototype. I think they were in on Robertson's scam. I think they were just a part of the deception. They were all there on the train. I don't think the Chileans stole it. And I don't think Robertson meant to lose the machine. I think even if he sold it to them, it says as is. So even if it didn't work, he would still have the profit. I don't think he meant to lose the machine and get the insurance on it. I think he wanted to sell the machine. Maybe it wouldn't work. That's not his problem. It's sold as is. He wouldn't sacrifice losing the machine. He only got 10%. He could have had 100% by selling it as is. But he'd have to sell it to one. Which means his scheme wouldn't have worked, so it wouldn't be in his benefit to lose the machine and just keep the 10%. And the insurance money, I don't want to guess. That's the problem. I don't want to guess. Let me put it this way, and I'm going to give you the reason why I'm choosing this first. I have no evidence that the Mexicans did anything wrong. And I have no evidence that the Chileans did anything wrong. But I do have evidence that Mr. Robertson did something wrong. He was committing a fraud. He was swindling the people. His machine was on the train, and one of the groups was left on the train. When the train disappeared, those people are gone. He's the only one I know of that's crooked. As much as I want to say, oh, the tensions were high between the Chileans and the Mexicans, oh, the Mexicans tried to kill them to get rid of it, I don't have any evidence for that. I can suspect that, it's very possible that the Mexicans did something to the Chileans to get them out of the picture. There was tension over the mines and over the contract. The Mexicans could have killed the Chileans, but I have no proof of that. The only proof I have is that Robertson is crooked. And if Robertson didn't want his machine being discovered that it was a fraud, and he wanted to collect 10% from each person and didn't want them finding out, he's the only one I can prove is any bit guilty. So with that information, knowing I can get no more information out of this, the only answer I can give that I can be 100% sure of is that Robertson is at least somewhat guilty. He's a swindler. Robertson is a swindler. Because my gut says the Mexicans did it. But I can't prove that. So until I can prove that, I can't give any other answer. But I can't collect any more information. The game log says this is all the information I get. So with that knowledge, knowing how the world of Sherlock works, if I can't prove they did it, they didn't do it. But I know Robertson is a swindler. I know he is. I have that proof. So knowing that, I have to defy my gut here and say Robertson is guilty. I don't have evidence that anyone else is. In opposition of my gut feeling, I have to say Robertson is the only one I can prove is guilty. So it's Miss Chesterfield, it's rode into mines, inside mines, concealment. It was an accident that the Chileans were left on the train, so that's actually quite possible. That makes sense, that they were left on the train by accident. That's possible. It was his motive. There was no grudge between the Mexicans, at least none that we can see, and with that conclusion we have Robertson is a swindler. It was all about the money. Mr. Robertson is a financial swindler. With all the aid of his minions, he sealed the train and his fake machine underneath the collapsed mines to make a fortune from multiple contracts and the insurance claim. He's a guileful man who will not hesitate to sacrifice lives for his personal gain. Or he's a swindler, but he's a famous man of influence. Direct confrontation is inadvisable. be preferable to accept Mycroft's political means of resolving the situation, even at the expense of justice. Or contact Lestrade to allow the police to perform their loud and swift justice before he plans a new swindle. I don't like loud and swift justice. I can't prove that he has sacrificed lives, but I can prove that he's a swindler. So in this instance, as much as I want him to get justice for this, I can't prove that he killed the Chileans. I can't prove that that was intentional or part of his plan. I can't prove any of that. But I can say that he's a swindler. I know that he's a swindler. I have proof from his contracts. So for that reason, I'm not going to let him take the hit for the loss of lives. I don't know that. It could have been the Mexicans that killed the Chileans at the same time. It could have been them. I only have proof that he's a swindler. So for that one, I have to pick political game. The only thing I can prove is that he's a swindler. So I'm going to let Mycroft handle it. As much as I don't want to, this is the only thing I can prove. I'm playing the game the way that Sherlock has taught me. It goes against my gut feeling, but I can't trust my guts. I can only trust the facts. Is that it? I don't get any kind of reassurance from my conclusion. I don't believe him. Maybe we're going to see him to confront him. I don't know.
Then the case is solved, Holmes. What do you intend to do?
Well, I shall require assistance for the arrests. There were accomplices.
Ah, but I know that look. You have your own ideas. What are they, Holmes?
On the one hand, we have the local constabulary and advice from our friend Lestrade. The problem we have there is that the authorities seem to be incapable of acting quietly. They rely on brute force. It could result in an international scandal.
That's not
Our other option is Brother Mycroft and his tedious political games. He will locate the guilty parties without any trouble, but it will be a long and drawn-out process, and possibly with some compromise that will be to Mycroft's benefit. But I think I'd prefer to give Mycroft a chance. We should overlook our personal differences on this occasion.
Let us go home, then. I'd like to begin writing a draft of this story.
I did not say that we had finished here yet.
Well, all right. What did I miss?
Nothing. I only want to stop our dear Mr. Robinson before he realizes we have cornered him. Let us go.
Okay, that sounds promising. Please tell me I'm going to do something. My guts tell me I've made the wrong choice, but it was the only logical choice, and it was the only one I could prove, so it has to be the right choice. It was the only one I had proof for. Any other one would have been a gut feeling, and I'm not allowed to go with gut feelings because this is a detective case. I can't trust my guts. I have to trust the facts.
Mr. Robinson, we must ask you to remain here until the police arrive.
The police? But why?
You are one of the suspects in our case of the vanished train, which, by the way, involves the death of all its passengers.
What? Is this a joke?
I can assure you that it is not.
This is outrageous. You don't know who you're dealing with. I am an influential man, and you shall regret this.
We know perfectly well who you are. We also know where the train is. The police shall be happy to find it. And as for your exclusive sales contracts...
Mr. Robinson is a financial swindler. With the aid of his minions, he sealed the train in his fake machine underneath the collapsed mines to make a fortune from multiple contracts and the insurance claim. I agree with that. Direct confrontation is inadvisable, so the decision was made to accept Mycroft's political means of resolving the situation. Clues found 23. Conclusion: Robertson is a swindler. Moral choice: political game. I can hold space to check my conclusion, but it may spoil the game experience. As much as I want to. Because I want to know if I was right. I'm not going to spoil it for myself, and I assume everything is going to be revealed to me in the end, whether my decisions were correct or not. So I'm going to accept my decision, knowing I have done the most logical and the most sound, reasonable thing. I did not jump to any conclusions. I did not make assumptions. I based my dealings only on the facts. I have the fact that he is a swindler. I have his paperwork proving he's a swindler. I can prove nothing else, so that's all I have to work with. I have to accept the decision. That's all I can prove. Yes, I know. Personality ranking. Commiserative. People that solve the case the same way. 2%. 2% of people solve the case the same way. 2%? Really? Oh no, that's not comforting. People made the same moral choice, 38%. That's still not comforting. I need to look up what commiserative means. Are you insulting me or complimenting me? Commiserative. To express or feel sympathy or pity. To sympathize. Why am I being sympathetic? That wasn't sympathetic. I wasn't being sympathetic. Bloodbath. Off the rails. Achievement unlocked. Bloodbath. Well, that's comforting. I'll play through the cutscene and then I'll save the game and I'll end it, but I don't want to cut it off right at the beginning of a cutscene just because I don't know if we'll be able to play it again. So, let's get to the end of the cutscene and then I'll end the video. Oh, that was a hard decision to make.
Holmes, what happened?
I feel deathly.
And you look it. Let me examine you. Please don't tell me that you've returned to your old habits.
Well, isn't that a fun way to leave it off? I'm gonna leave it here. I know, great place to leave it. Holmes is just laying here dying. But what the heck. Alright, so, good incentive to come back. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!